All right, welcome everyone. My name is K. Michael Russell. I'm a comic book colorist and digital artist. I need to start throwing that in there. And welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video today, I want to talk about saturation. It's something I've talked about on the channel several times before, but it's sort of been the theme of this month for me. There was some conversations in the comments on YouTube. It came up in the monthly live class that I do with my students, and I thought, you know what, let's revisit this again since it's been a while. And I've got some examples here from one of my favorite colorists. You guys, I know I'm a big Marta Gracia fan, and even myself, I up until not that long ago, I would look at some of his work and like a page like this and go, man, like everything seems so vibrant and saturated, and it almost breaks the rules of color theory. It's because generally speaking, you can't have a lot of really saturated colors because your eye just doesn't know where to land. Okay, the reader's eye just kind of bounces around like crazy. And I pulled an example from a student. He said he didn't mind if I used this. One of his early attempts at this particular page, and there's a lot of really saturated colors. There's a lot of really different colors kind of everywhere, and so it makes it difficult for your eye to find what's important because we're not helping the situation by using the right amounts of contrast and value and saturation and all that stuff. So I got some examples I want to walk through, and then I'll show you guys what I mean here. So, for example, on this page, there's a lot of what appear to be very vibrant colors on all these costumes. I want you to look at the background first, okay? Because this is really the key to, I think, what Marta is doing here. So if you look at, for example, and I've blown up the magic picker over here so you guys can see that a little bit better. If you look at these background colors as I'm color picking them over here, they're all very desaturated. Okay, they're all, and this is all just snow, of course, but there's not a lot of saturation going on here. These are very gray colors for the most part. Now, and there might be some exceptions somewhere, but overall, the background is very desaturated. Okay, and so when you see something like Gamora's hair over here, I would look at that and go, man, that looks like that's about as saturated as you can possibly get. That green highlight right here. But when we color pick that, it's almost split right down the middle, okay, as far as saturation level. So if you're not familiar with the color picker, less saturated on the left, more saturated on the right. So it's dead center, okay? It's not over here green, because if it was, it would be this insane neon green. And I think what a lot of beginners do is they see this and they go, that's a really vibrant color. I got to pick that color. And it's like, bam. And it's too much. Okay, it's too much saturation. Look at these skin colors. They look really warm, right, against all that blue. But if we start color picking these, even these skin tones they're very desaturated skin tones. But when you put that next to, a really actually saturated color, those colors really, really pop. Okay, and I hate that analogy of popping colors, but I guess it works in this scenario. Look at Drax over here. He looks green. He looks very green. But if I start picking these, again, these are not that saturated, okay? They're barely, not even to the halfway across that color picker over there. Even the oranges in her hair, this is starting to get more saturated, but oranges work well with blue, okay? So you can add a little saturation on this. It's opposite the color wheel. It's a complementary color and whatnot. So it's a safer bet because blues and oranges work well together. There are exceptions, of course. The red in this shield or the red on Rocket over here. But look at how small those places are. Okay, he's not throwing tons of red around because it would be too much. Okay, find some other examples. This was Stuart Eminem and Marta Gracia. This is Joe Mad and Marta from Inhumans. And what's the first thing you would say here, other than the explosion? Let's just take that out for this scenario. A lot of these reds are pretty saturated, okay, but they're still not cranked all the way into that top right corner, okay. And look at the background. Again, very desaturated. Lots of cool colors, not a lot of saturation. Now this one is a little more subtle. If I had to pick the most vibrant colors, we would probably say, her orange hair, the green in her cape. But look at the background compared to the foreground characters. The background's a lot of gray. There are some little bit warmth in these bricks and whatnot, but these are really, and again, I don't sound like a broken record, but they're very desaturated colors. Okay. Even this green little river over here that we're seeing, like, it's not that green. It just looks green, looks more green than it is because it's surrounded by all of these warm colors. Okay. It's a weird thing that happens when you start playing around with warm and cool. And I made an example here somewhere. Here we go. So if I pick a background with these colors, these are all just very low saturation, not that bright, not that dark, kind of middle of the road, nice, boring background colors, I would say. Okay. So if I want to pick a red that's really going to stand out against this, a red or an orange or something, then I can go up to that side of the color wheel. I don't have to go all the way up to the top right, but I can go to that side and I can paint this in, and it pops very well. It's very vibrant against all that green. We could even go lower and it's still going to stand out really well because it's so different and it's opposite the color wheel of all this other stuff. So even this little middle red here looks like red. It really stands out well against all of these green colors. Now if we flip-flop this and I surround that red by colors that are warmer than it is, and I accidentally just looked at my new light. It's so bright. Now I'm seeing little dots everywhere. So if I flip it, it doesn't even look like red anymore. This is the same red. Okay, this is just one layer. I've got it over here by itself. But if I flip that red underneath it, now all of a sudden it's like brown because your mind is looking at this color, this red color, and going, well, that's red. This can't be red. Okay. So that color relationship is very important. And so you've got to pick those reds for where they make sense in relation to everything else around it. And I have made some other real world examples here. We looked at that one. This one now, it's Spider-Man. He's pretty much candy apple red as it gets in comics. So, these are pretty saturated reds, but they're contained to him. He didn't go in here and start throwing around a lot of other reds in the background, because if he did, it would weaken that composition because everything around it is cool. Okay. Here's another. Now this is kind of an opposite example, I guess. So here he's surrounded by reds and yellows and warm colors, but that jacket still reads as green, even though it's really desaturated green. Okay. Not a lot of color in that. It's well over or under 50% on the toward the zero on the saturation. So it doesn't take that much because all of these warm colors around it. And again, if you would crank this up to like a really green color, it would just be overwhelming, and it would clash with the red and look like Christmas all of a sudden. All right, and one last example I found. Again, look at all these colors that we're saying these look like real vibrant colors, but they're only vibrant because of what's behind them, and what's behind them is basically gray. Okay, it's really, really gray. Okay, so now again, like I said, there's going to be exceptions to this. Not every scene is going to work this way, but when you're thinking about picking your colors, don't just think in terms of this is the red I always use in this scenario. Make sure that it's a color that fits in the environment you've created. And if all else fails, you're probably better off with less saturation than more, because less saturated colors are going to fit together better than a bunch of really saturated colors. That's my spill. That's my spill on saturation today. So when you're picking colors, don't just pick the most saturated option every single time. I think a lot of this comes from our grade school education, where we learn that you know, that this is red and that this is blue and that this is yellow, and they don't really get into saturation levels in elementary school, or they didn't for me. And so when someone says pick a green, they're like, oh, green, it's comics, let's go, you know. Um, so yeah, if you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe to the channel and check the links in the description. I've got all sorts of resources, and I actually, up at the top, I've got a new website, new URL that I am. It's a work in progress. The website is, but it's got all of my coloring courses. It's got a couple of new courses that I actually haven't announced yet because I'm still tweaking some things. But they're up. They're ready to go. There's a color theory course for digital artists in general. There is a Procreate guide and all that stuff's there as well. So be sure to check that out if you want to learn more. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.